the most dangerous north side in America. St. Louis is a city that is often known for being unsafe. With a population of about 300,000, the city has a crime rate that is 234% higher than the U.S. average. In 2022, the city reported almost 4,400 violent crimes, including a high murder and assault rate. The worst areas of St. Louis are the northern parts of the city, with crime cooling off in the south. For the past 60 years of St. Louis history, the North Side has remained the most misunderstood, stereotyped, and neglected section of the city. Being one of the largest segments of the city, if one considers the cliché boundary of Del Mar to be the southern border, the northern portion of the city dwarfs the southern half. While many neighborhoods do suffer from severe abandonment, crime, and despair, there are still many shining examples that are stable, diverse, and improving.
I got a blood brother I lost to this shit, but it's either you with it or you not. It's either, ain't no half stepping. You in this shit, first time you half step, you gonna get your ass crunched on the set.
The gun laws, these gun laws was not made for St. Louis. We're not shooting deers and rabbits. We're around here shooting each other. And so, you know, when you got a 12-year-old that can walk down the street with an AR, with a gun, and you can't say nothing to him because it's the law. It's a problem, and it's a problem for this city.
Walnut Park East/West. Walnut Park East is the third of three neighborhoods that are north of outbound I-70 from West Florissant to the city of St. Louis/St. Louis County line. Nicknamed Murderville and home to street legends like Jerry Lewis Bay and rap legends like Da Whole Nine and Chingy. Walnut Park East crime rates are 205% higher than the national average. In Walnut Park East, violent crimes are 384% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 15 chance of becoming a victim of crime. Walnut Park West crime rates are 328% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Walnut Park West are 620% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 11 chance of becoming a victim of crime. People of German descent spearheaded the early settlement in Walnut Park East, but soon were joined by others with diverse European roots. Until the mid-1960s, the community was white and basically lower middle class, with a large proportion of Roman Catholics. The neighborhoods of Walnut Park East and West were one of the last communities of the North Side to have black families move into them, as many African Americans relocated into the neighborhood during the 1970s, especially after the downtown housing projects of Pruitt-Igoe were demolished. In recent years, the Walnut Park neighborhoods have tended to share some of the same issues as the neighboring communities to the southeast. The residents of Walnut Park East and West share many of the same concerns, although conditions vary from block to block or within certain blocks. Crime, physical deterioration, education and economic opportunities, airport-related noise, trash-filled alleys, and single-family home rentals are local issues and problems that extend beyond the neighborhoods or political boundaries.
Right now, St. Louis police working to learn more about a man who died after being set on fire. Officers made the discovery while responding to reports of shots fired on Thrush Avenue near Prang in the Walnut Park East neighborhood. Around 10 last night, fire crews put out the flames. The man was pronounced dead on the scene. An autopsy is being performed. Anyone with information is asked to contact St. Louis police. You can also remain anonymous. Call Crime Stoppers at 866-371-TIPS.
Notable gangs and hoods. 49 Bad. 4900 block of Beacon Alcott Davidson in Walnut Park East. Home to rapper Chingy. At one time, this was the most reputable area in Walnut Park and among the most notorious hoods in the city. The area was also home to one of the city's deadliest intersections, Lillian and Emerson. The 4-9 Bad began as 3 separate blocks before forming as one hood. It is believed that before Bloods and Crips came to St. Louis in the 80s and early 90s, the area was home to a few vice lords that originally came from the projects after they were demolished. Affiliations include 62 Brims, Harvard Park Brims, and 92 Inglewood family gangster Bloods. 5-4 Murderville, 5-4 Oriole, 5-4 Robin, and 5-4 Wren. Located in the 5400 block of Walnut Park East, aka Murderville. Affiliations include 62 East Coast Crips and 87 Kitchen Crips. Emma Mob. Lucille Avenue Crips, 6000 block of Lucille, Emma Mob, 5900 block of Emma, and Harney Mob, 5900 block of Harney, and Walnut Park West. Affiliation, Roland 60s Neighborhood Crip. Floy aka The Six, 5700 block of Floy in Walnut Park West. The Six is located in the city's 6th district and is comprised of 3 separate hoods that are allied together, Mimica, Floy, and Acme. Home to late rapper KB6. Affiliation, Roland 60s Neighborhood Crip. Jeff VanderLou. Jeff VanderLou is situated between North Vandeventer Avenue on the northwest, Natural Bridge Avenue on the northeast, North Jefferson Avenue on the east, Del Mar Boulevard on the south, and North Compton Avenue and Martin Luther King Drive on the southwest. Jeff VanderLou crime rates are 355% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Jeff VanderLou are 579% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 10 chance of becoming a victim of crime. Jeff VanderLou was home to one of the city's elite private streets, Vandeventer Place. After years of loss due to disinvestment and neglect, the homes on Vandeventer Place were sacrificed and replaced with public institutions. It is also home to one of the area's most notable historical landmarks of the past, Old Sportsman Park, former home of the St. Louis Browns and the St. Louis Cardinals, currently the site of Herbert Hoover Boys and Girls Club. Many of the industries and businesses once located in the neighborhood are gone today, leaving behind empty shells or vacant sites of demolished buildings. With a majority of its housing of multifamily flat construction having been built in the early part of the 20th century, most of what remains is severely deteriorated. Between 1950 and 2017, Jeff VanderLou lost 34,540 residents, the greatest decline in the city over that period. The population dropped from 40,042 in 1950 to 5,502 in 2017.
New tonight, a man is dead after a shooting early this morning in the city's Jeff VanderLou neighborhood. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ann Allred. The deadly shooting comes after a series of violent crime in the area and right before a holiday weekend. 5 on your side's Robert Townsend talked to neighbors about their concerns.
And all we have to do is little things.
Pastor Rodney Carrier says he can remember when the Jeff VanderLou neighborhood was a bustling area in North St. Louis. His church is located near Vandeventer and St. Louis Avenues.
Well, 10 years ago, it was a thriving community, business owners and alike.
But many businesses have closed. Pastor Carrier says rampant drug dealing, shootings, and other crimes have ruined the neighborhood. Just last week, he found a man dead from a drug overdose in a parking lot across from his church.
It's sad because with this powerful drug that they have out here now, it's just crippling humanity.
All the people that stand there do drugs at the filling stations, stores, all around that. Just clear it up.
In April, police found a man shot to death in the 2800 block of Gamble Street. Months later, on August 2nd, a man in his 20s also shot and killed on Evans Avenue. And around 4 Friday morning, a man dead of a gunshot wound to his head on Kennerly Avenue. A shot spotter, the gunshot detection system that alerts police, now sits in the street.
We need to get out and come and make a difference in our community.
Notable gangs and hoods. Lab Mob, 3800 block of Labadee, K Ave, Kennerly Avenue. Affiliations include 92 Inglewood Family Bloods, 87 Kitchen Crips, 62 East Coast Neighborhood Crips. JVL. Northside's Jeff VanderLou, aka JVL or the L. Reputable blocks include 2700, 2800, 2900, 3100 Brantner, and more. The area of JVL, which is mostly centered around small apartments, changed drastically after the projects on Cass were built in the 1960s. By the 1980s, JVL Posse was formed. Affiliations include 92 Bishops, 62 East Coast Crips, and Kitchen Crips. The Ville/the Greater Ville. The area is bounded by Marcus Avenue on the northwest, Natural Bridge Avenue on the northeast, Dr. Martin Luther King Drive, and St. Louis Avenue on the south via North Taylor Avenue and Sarah Street, and North Vandeventer Avenue on the southeast. The Ville neighborhood nests comfortably inside the Greater Ville. The Ville crime rates are 331% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in the Ville are 634% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 10 chance of becoming a victim of crime. The Greater Ville crime rates are 264% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in the Greater Ville are 441% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 12 chance of becoming a victim of crime. The Greater Ville shares much of the history of the Ville neighborhood. The area is a historic African American neighborhood with many African American businesses. From 1911 to 1950, these neighborhoods were the center of African American culture within the city of St. Louis. Prior to the United States Civil Rights Movement, the use of restrictive covenants and other legal restrictions prevented African Americans from finding housing in many areas of the city. As a result, the African American population of St. Louis became heavily concentrated in and around the Ville, short for the village. Between 1920 and 1930, the Ville went from being 8% to 86% African American. The neighborhoods quickly became the cradle of African American culture and home to many black professionals, businessmen, and entertainers such as Dick Gregory, Chuck Berry, Tina Turner, Sonny Liston, and Wendell Pruitt, who was an American military pilot and Tuskegee Airman. After his death, his name, along with that of William L. Igoe, was given to the Pruitt-Igoe Public Housing Complex on Cass Avenue. The neighborhood was the site of a number of important cultural institutions for the black community, including Sumner High School, the first high school for black students west of the Mississippi, and Homer G. Phillips Hospital, established in 1937 as one of the few black teaching hospitals in the United States and the only one in the city to serve black people. Following the Supreme Court's 1948 ban on restrictive housing covenants, the population of the Ville began to decline as more black residents became able to move elsewhere, along with many of its businesses and public amenities. Between 1950 and 1970, The total population in the Ville dropped by nearly 40%.
In the last few minutes, News 4 has confirmed that a city shooting involving 6 victims has now grown to include a 7th. Right now, 3 of them are dead.
The gunfire broke out around 7:30 tonight in North St. Louis on Sullivan. That's not far from the Natural Bridge in Vandeventer area. We are waiting on the St. Louis police chief to give us some updates. News 4's Ashley Lincoln is live from that area. Ashley, what do we know right now?
Well, Corey, we have not been able to speak with the chief of police yet, but we did speak with the state representative over this ward, or should I say district tonight. But first, I want to show the viewers, you can see it's still very active scene behind me. You can see St. Louis City Police still securing the crime scene. And also my cameraman's going to show you St. Louis City Fire Department. They had to come out to the scene as well. With them being out here, it indicates just how violent this entire situation was. The ground was so saturated with blood that the fire crews had to come out here and wash down the street. But we're learning tonight from some of the state leaders over this ward that one of the victims is actually the owner of a store that's on the other side of that bus that says St. Louis on the front of it. Majority of the scene has been focused right there in the street. We're learning tonight that the shooting actually happened in the middle of the street. And we're also learning that it involves some sort of domestic dispute. I think we have some video of the scene when our crew first got out here. We're told by several of the people, my cameraman that got out here, that it was a very violent and volatile situation at the beginning of this investigation as family members of some of those victims arrived to get more information. Again, we're trying to wait to get information from the chief of police on where their investigation stands in all of this. Now, we also learned from that state representative in this area that they've been trying to get a mobile crime camera placed in this neighborhood. She told me this year they've had quite a few violent incidents in this neighborhood.
Notable gangs and hoods. 42 Maffitt. 4200 block of Maffitt. A reputable block in the heart of the Ville. Affiliations include 62 Brims Bloods and 92 Inglewood family Bloods. The Ville. 442 Ville, 4400 block and 4200 block of the Ville. Affiliations include Hustlers, 62 East Coast Crips, 87 Kitchen Crips, 92 Inglewood Family Bloods. Cell Block, 39 Ashland, 3900 Block of Ashland, aka Cell Block of the Ville. Affiliations include 107 Hoover's Gangster Crips, Roland 60's Neighborhood Crips, 19 Long Beach Crips. Fairground. The Fairground neighborhood is bounded by Glasgow Avenue on the east, west, and North Florissant Avenues on the north, Warren Avenue on the west, and Fairground Park and Natural Bridge Avenue on the south. Fairground crime rates are 496% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Fairground are 532% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 8 chance of becoming a victim of crime. The Fairgrounds neighborhood received its name as a result of the many fairs that were held at present-day Fairgrounds Park. The fare was 7 cents a person or 5 tickets for a quarter. Throughout the latter portion of the century, the grounds were expanded and more elaborate buildings were constructed. These included a new amphitheater, art gallery, natural history museum, and the zoological gardens. In 1883, the Jockey Club was organized, where emphasis was placed upon horse racing. It was around this time that the fairgrounds began to lose popularity. The last fair would be held in 1902. The city eventually bought the grounds for $700,000 for use as a park, which was dedicated in 1909. While most of the fair structures were removed, the facade of the bear pit from the city's original zoo remained as part of park design and still stands today. The city's original zoo included a monkey house, a carnivore house, and a bear pit, among other attractions. About 1912, the former location of the amphitheater was rebuilt into what was then the world's largest swimming pool, measuring 440 feet, with an area of 5 acres. The pool was able to hold from 10,000 to 12,000 swimmers at a time. During this time period, much of the country was suffering from segregation. It wasn't until June 21, 1949, when African Americans were allowed access to the city pool for the first time. Only 30 to 40 African Americans showed up that day. They swam alongside white children without any problem until a group of white teenagers surrounded the fence that enclosed the pool and began to shout threats to the African American swimmers. The situation quickly escalated into a riot after a rumor was spread that a black man there had killed a white boy. Many African American children were surrounded by younger protesters who had arrived with baseball bats, bricks, other weapons, and began attacking the group. The 2000 census data counted 2,472 residents, down 33% from 1990, with 98% of the residents being black and 1% white. Fairground is among several other North City neighborhoods that lost residents at a high rate from 1990 to 2000. In the 2010 census, the neighborhood would lose another 27%. Fairground has a current population of about 1,157 residents.
Tonight on a double shooting that critically injured 2 children. It happened yesterday afternoon in North St. Louis near Fairground Park. 5 on your side's Mercedes McKay joins us from the St. Louis Police headquarters with new information. Mercedes.
Mike, the encouraging news is while both of these victims are in critical condition, they are stable. Police say the 16-year-old boy and the 9-year-old boy were caught in the crossfires last night, and police believe that multiple people fired shots. But this is actually opening up a broader conversation that's making community members nervous, and that's violence among children.
Keep them in our prayers, and let them be safe.
For Lenora Brown, prayer is all she feels like she can do as she worries daily for her grandchildren with gun violence everywhere.
It could have been them if they was here, so it is a big concern, a big issue.
That concern hitting even closer to home after 2 children were shot in her neighborhood in North St. Louis Monday. A 16-year-old boy was shot in the neck, and a 9-year-old boy was shot in his lower back.
Our younger generation is leaving us too quick. They need to be here to grow, see, and do what they love to do. It's just so sad to see that happen.
Brown says it's happening so often now that kids are more afraid. She sees and hears it firsthand as a school bus driver.
I notice they look around a lot and see what's going on to make sure the ones that I drive.
It's not just something parents and kids are worried about, though.
It is definitely something that we're very concerned about and something that will take an all-hands-on-deck strategy if we want to address the issues that are leading to these incidents.
Notable gangs and hoods. PST. 41 PST, 4100 block of Pleasant and Peck Street. Affiliations include Roland 60s Neighborhood Crips, 19 Long Beach Crips. The Beam. 29 Beam, 29 Bailey, aka APG. Affiliations include Bounty Hunter Bloods, Mob Pyrus, 104 Crenshaw Mafia Gangster Bloods. CN. College and Carter. Affiliations include 87 Kitchen Crips, mostly with some 62 East Coast Crips. Home of late rapper City Styles.
City, he ended up passing away, 2015, I believe?
Yeah, he crashed it. That's what I got. Yeah, they killed City. I was fucked up, right? They killed City. It was like tragic, right? 2 cars. It don't take that many people. That's 3 cars to kill one person. How big it was. It took 3 cars, like 400 shots. That's what I was on. They say when a police officer opened the door, he threw up instantly. That's how tragic it was. Blood everywhere. You know what I'm saying? The only thing you seen in that car was an empty clip. And City holding his gun. That's what I was on. So he tried to do what he tried to do, but he still got it done to him. So niggas, I got my head, I got my pistol with me, I got my pole. That shit don't mean shit. Die with that motherfucker. I swear to God, my mom.
Old North St. Louis. The neighborhood sits just north and slightly west of the downtown area. It is bounded by Palm Street on the north, Cass Avenue on the south, Howard Street on the east, and North Florissant on the west. Old North St. Louis crime rates are 501% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Old North St. Louis are 689% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 8 chance of becoming a victim of crime. The neighborhood was established as the independent village of North St. Louis in 1816 and was annexed by the city of St. Louis in 1841. Large numbers of Polish immigrants settled in the near North Side, including present-day Old North St. Louis. By the turn of the century, 14th Street had become a major commercial district. Furniture and appliances, clothing and hardware, plus groceries and confectionaries attracted shoppers from far beyond the immediate neighborhood. The period after the Second World War ushered in another turning point for the neighborhood. Many residents moved to the suburbs, encouraged by new housing developments and high-speed expressways. Highway 70, constructed between the 1950s and 60s, disconnected the neighborhood from its industrial sector and furthered abandonment. In the midst of this change, and encouraged by war on poverty legislation, new social service organizations such as Grace Hill arose, supported by public funds. Grace Hill sponsored a number of neighborhood projects and oversaw both construction of new housing and rehab of older buildings. With the elimination of federal funding in the 1970s, the pace of demolition increased, but little new housing was built, resulting in declines in both population and housing stock.
That gas station is no stranger to violence.
Our team coverage continues with 5 on your sides, Robert Townsend. Robert is live outside St. Louis Police Headquarters, which is less than 2 miles away from the old North St. Louis Shell station, gas station. And Robert, you talked to people in that area.
Hey there, Ann. Let me tell you this. Those people tell me that violence near that gas station has been an ongoing problem. Now today, St. Louis Police shared crime numbers with us supporting citizens' concerns.
It's definitely rough.
That's how Shawnee Parker describes living near this gas station in Old North St. Louis. The gas station is located near the intersection of North Florissant and St. Louis Avenues.
You see drug dealers sitting on the parking lot all day, in and out.
And that's not all. St. Louis police say since late January, they have received more than 60 calls to the gas station. Calls ranging from shots fired, auto theft, to disturbances. What's more, police say during the same time, they responded to more than 100 calls at the Northside intersection.
I prefer to keep, inside my little territory down there. Absolutely.
Neighbors say for years, the gas station has been a hot spot for crime and other problems. City officials have identified the business as a public nuisance. 3 hours before an armed 16-year-old boy was shot and killed Sunday during an officer-involved shooting, 3rd Ward Alderman Brandon Bosley says he was at the gas station addressing a loitering problem in the parking lot.
And walked around with the current manager and asked people to leave the lot, and they did.
Police have a real-time shot spotter camera system on St. Louis Avenue in hopes of catching criminals who fire gunshots. We also saw cameras on 2 traffic lights. Still, some neighbors would like to see security officers patrolling the gas station.
He doesn't have to have security there. That's not within his, occupancy permit.
Those people won't be able to hang out, just sitting here hanging out on the lot all day. If there's security, keeping track and making sure everybody's safe.
Notable gangs and hoods. Murphy Blair. 13 Mad, 1300 block of Madison of the Murphy Blair Apartments. DTT, Downtown Taliban. Downtown Taliban was one of the most active cliques in St. Louis during the 2010s, having beefs with many throughout the downtown and north side area. Honorable mention. Carr Square. This near Northside neighborhood is bounded by Cass Avenue on the north, Cole Street on the south, North Tucker Boulevard and North 13th Street on the east, and North Jefferson on the west. The Depression and World War II brought large numbers of African American migrants to the central portions of the city. They came in search of a better existence from rural areas of the South. For most, however, the new urban home came with harsh realities. They often lived in decrepit buildings erected before the days of indoor plumbing and central heating, many of which had been remodeled by landlords into even smaller units. It was partially in response to such overcrowded and unsanitary housing conditions that public housing emerged. Carr Square and adjacent Columbus Square became testing grounds of public housing projects for St. Louis and for the country as a whole. The earliest housing project in the neighborhood was Carr Square Village, a low-rise development built in 1942 for poor, largely migrant African Americans. Nonetheless, the area would become better known for the massive Pruitt-Igoe complex, begun in 1954. With the urban renewal slum clearance, by some called Negro removal, of Mill Creek Valley, 35 high-rise towers were built to house the large group of African Americans displaced. Also during this time period, when modern high-rise public housing projects were in vogue, Vaughn Family Apartments was built to the east of Pruitt-Igoe. With the demolition of Pruitt-Igoe in 1976, and what had been one of the earliest and largest high-rise housing projects in the country, the movement away from large high-rise public housing began, as these large-scale high-rise projects were widely accepted as failures. By the 1980s, the same projects noted for their progressive vision became known for crime, drug wars, and poor conditions.
Developing tonight, a Lyft driver shot on the job in the middle of the day. Right now, St. Louis police searching for a shooter. Thank you for joining us at 10. I'm Brent Solomon. The shooting happened just north of downtown in the Carr Square neighborhood. Sources say the victim was likely not the intended target. New tonight, Robert Townsend is speaking with people nearby whose homes and cars were also shot.
I heard just a splash, like a boom.
A startled Ashley Tapp then jumped out of bed and looked outside.
And I see all police.
She quickly learned in mid-afternoon at least 20 gunshots went off in her Carr Square neighborhood.
My heart just dropped. It literally smelled the gun smoke sitting on the couch. That's how close it was to us.
A source tells 5 on your side an innocent 54-year-old Lyft driver was picking up someone in this black Toyota near 16th and Cass Avenue when a bullet hit her in her forehead. Neighbors say at least 2 shooters in a vehicle chased 2 other men in an identical car to the Lyft driver's car.
She got shot in a gunfire.
Bullets also blasted through Ashley Tapp's living room window, ripped her couch, and pierced her wall. She and her 7-year-old daughter have only lived in this St. Louis neighborhood for 2 weeks.
Me and my daughter could have been sitting on that couch, and thank God we didn't get hurt.
I talked to another mom who says she was riding behind the rideshare driver when she too got caught in the crossfire. The mom tearfully told me a bullet hit her back window where her 9-month-old baby sat in his car seat. The mom and child, luckily, were not hurt. So far this year, there have been 11 shootings in the Carr Square neighborhood. 5 of them were fatal.
Notable gangs and hoods. Murphy Park. 20th Street Murphy Park Apartments in downtown. Affiliations include 92 Bishops Bloods primarily, and a small faction of Roland 60s Crips. Years ago, Murphy Park was the location of the George Vaughn Projects, aka VTO, Vaughn Taking Over, which was one of the largest and most notorious during the 80s and 90s before being torn down in '95 and later replaced by Murphy Park. The Village. Downtown's 18 Village, 1800 Carr Square Village, aka Looney Block and Hammertown. Affiliations include VTO, Vaughn Taking Over, 92 Bishop Bloods, 92 Inglewood Family Bloods, 52 Bloodstone Villains. The O. Home to 3 problems. Downtown 1600 OPs, O'Fallon Place Apartments. Wells-Goodfellow. Wells-Goodfellow is bounded by the city limits on the northwest, Dr. Martin Luther King Drive on the southwest, Natural Bridge Avenue on the northeast, and Union Boulevard on the southeast. Wells-Goodfellow crime rates are 428% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Wells-Goodfellow are 680% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 9 chance of becoming a victim of crime. Part of the area dates to before the Civil War, and at one time it was the location of the popular amusement centers Suburban Garden at Kennelly and Hodiamont. But its greatest growth came in the 1920s and 1930s with a mixture of single-family homes, duplexes, 4-family flats, and apartment buildings. Before World War II, the area was considered a particularly attractive community in which to live and start a family. When the exodus to the suburbs in the late 1950s moved swiftly, the neighborhood underwent a drastic change, and today much of the area's structures are long gone. The 2000 census data reported 8,193 residents, down 29% from 1990's count, of whom 98% were black, 1% white. It lost another 20 to 30% from 2000 to 2010. The neighborhood has been losing residents at an alarming rate. The population of Wells-Goodfellow currently sits at about 4,473 residents.
Ty and John, police responded to a call on Kennerly Avenue just off Goodfellow Boulevard, and when they arrived, they found a woman was shot inside a home. She was not conscious or breathing. We want to show you some video taken by our Nick Lopez in the Nissan Rogue Runner earlier this morning. He says police discovered the woman's body in the living room near the front door of the home. Homicide detectives put police tape around the house and blocked off part of that street too. And as investigators began their work, concerned neighbors started coming outside trying to figure out what was going on. The call came in around 11:20 last night. The St. Louis City Medical Examiner was also there working closely with police as they were gathering evidence. And I did call St. Louis Metropolitan Police's real-time crime center this morning. They tell me they are not sure if any suspects are in custody at this hour. I'm working to find that out from police this morning too. But if you have any information, would like to remain anonymous, you can always call Crime Stoppers at 1-866-371-TIPS.
Notable gangs and hoods. 53 AGC. 5300 block of Wabata, once known as Wabata Cowboys. Affiliations include 53 Avalon Gangster Crips, 74 Hoover Crips. Home to battle rapper B Magic. Dipset. 5500 to 5700 block of Labadie and St. Louis Avenue. HSP aka Horseshoe Posse 55 Ashland, 5500 block of Ashland. The Horseshoe was originally on the 5600 block of Ashland between Clara and Goodfellow before moving across Clara to the 5500 block of Ashland. Being known to use the Indianapolis Colts logo to represent the neighborhood, the Horseshoe Posse was one of St. Louis' original gangs before Bloods and Crips, and is also believed to be one of the first Blood and LA gang-affiliated hoods in St. Louis. Both the original Horseshoe and the 55 Ashland sections have been completely demolished.